Hi guys, welcome, hello, hi. My name is Wendy Ivy Martinez, I'm a geek, and today I have a massive unhaul video for you guys. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. If you guys are familiar with my content, hi, welcome back. You guys might see that we are in an unfamiliar room. This is my walk-in closet, but it is soon to be a library room. Obviously, it's not ready. There's obviously a lot more that we have to do in here, and it is a mess right now. But I'm going to show you all the books that I'm going to be getting rid of because I just didn't like them. And these are actually books that are going to be going up on Pango Books, which is an app that you can like buy and sell used books. And so if you are interested in any of these books, feel free to, I will put the link down below, so if you guys want to check them out. If you guys want to buy my books, go ahead. Go ahead. So let's go ahead and just get started. So the first book that I'm unhauling is The Age of Myth by Michael Sullivan. So I actually just hauled this book in my December book haul video, but I didn't realize that when I bought this it was going to be a mass market paperback, and I just can't do mass market paperbacks. The text is just too tiny for me, and it just, I don't know, there's just something about it that like really like irks me. I just feel like I'm never gonna get to the end. And just to like finish a page like takes forever because there's just so much text in just like one tiny small page. And so I'm unhauling this one. This is going to be going on my Pango Books because I actually bought the hardcover edition of this because I can't do mass market paperbacks. The next book that I'm going to be unhauling is 1,000 Ships by Natalie Haynes. Now, I recently tried reading Pandora's Box by her. I just didn't like the writing style for some reason, so I don't, like, can I give her a second chance? Yeah, but I feel like there's just so many other books that I want to read. I just don't think I'm going to eventually get to this one to even give it a chance because I did after that one. So I'm actually going to be getting rid of this one as well, and this is pretty much like a brand new copy. The next one is Horror Story by Grady Hendrix. This one I hauled last year, and I actually read it last year as well. I did actually really like this story. However, because it's so like big, I just feel like it's gonna be awkwardly, it's just gonna be like, it's gonna look really awkward on my shelves, so I don't want that. So I'm actually unhauling this one as well. The next one is The 5-Second Rule. This is a book that I got a really long time ago about this like 5-second rule. I don't know, I just thought it was like, I don't know, it just like was very repetitive. It just said, get up in 5 seconds. You know, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, jump out. And that's basically all I kept saying the whole time. So it's like, okay, I learned what to do. That's it. Next we have the Moon Spells Journal. This is a journal to like guided rituals, reflections, and meditations with the moon. I just never used it. Like, this is blank. I never used it. I have so many journals that I need to go through because I just never used them. So I'm unhauling this one as well. Where'd You Go, Bernadette by Mary Semple is another book that I am unhauling because I don't know, I don't have any interest in reading this one. Right Behind You by Lisa Gardner is another book that I will be unhauling. I don't know what this is about. I think this is like a second or third book in the series. Am I ever going to read the series? No. I never even had it in my mind to read this. So this one's going to. Next one is The Confessions of Franny Langton by Sarah Collins. I don't even know what this is about. I'm assuming it's like a historical fiction, and I'm not a historical fiction gal. I've tried, I can't, so I don't have any interest in reading this one, so that's why this one's going away too. The next one is Once Upon a River by Diane Setterfield. I don't know, I just never got around to like reading it, and it doesn't capture my eye, so I don't think, because I've had it on my shelf for so many years, I just don't think I'm gonna end up reading it. Next is The Dark Tower, the Gunslinger by Stephen King. Honestly, I was putting this on my unhaul and then putting it back on my shelves and then taking it off and then putting it on my shelves, but because the thing is, like, I want to read Stephen King, however this book series has like 12 books or something, and I just don't have enough interest in them to continue the series, so I'm like, why even start it if I know I'm not going to finish? So I'm like, yeah, we're not doing this. We're not doing this. If I want to read a Stephen King, it's going to be a standalone because we're not doing a 12 series book that I don't really have too much interest in reading. Next we have The Winter Sister by Megan Collins. I feel like we've talked about this author already, or am I tripping? I don't know, but this, I don't know, a thriller, I think, but it doesn't catch my eye. I'm just not gonna read this. I know I'm not gonna. It's been on my shelf forever. It's not gonna happen. Same thing with The Braid. I think this is, I don't know, it's tiny, so that's why I wanted to read it, because I'm like, this is really short. It's a blockbuster international bestseller. It's a pretty cover, but honestly, it also just seems like kind of boring to me and not something that catches my eye. And I felt like if I was going to read it, because I've had it for so many years, I would have read it by now, and it's just never happened. It's not going to happen. Next we have the Mercury Retrograde book by Yasmin Boland and Kim Farnell. I did read this one. It's all about like Mercury retrograde, and like I read it. It did its job. I don't think I will ever read it again. You know, it's good, but I just don't think I'm going to read it again. So there's that one. Next we have Untamed by Glennon Doyle. I just never got around to like reading it, and honestly just doesn't catch my eye anymore. I don't even really know who Glennon Doyle is, but I don't know. I just don't think it's going to happen. Next is 172 Hours on the Moon by Johann Harstead. Now, I was very hesitant on getting rid of this one because I have been wanting to read it for so long, because it's about these like kids that go on the moon and they find like aliens. But I don't know, because it's literally, I've literally had this since I was like a teenager almost, I think. Yeah, since I was like practically a teenager, and it hasn't happened. I don't think it's going to happen. Okay, like I've had this since like 2013, since it like first came out, or maybe even like maybe a year or two afterwards, but I've had this for a long time, you know, like almost 10 years at least. So it's not gonna happen. It has not happened in 10 years. It's not gonna happen in the next 10. So next we have Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong, and this is the Book of the Month copy. I was very excited to read this because I heard this was like a Cleopatra and Antony retelling, but it just got such bad reviews, and then I was watching booktubers talk about how like it just wasn't good, that it was slow, and I was like, you know what, I just have more interest in other books that I don't even want to like waste my time with a book that has so much like negative reviews behind it. I'm like, yeah. The next book that I'm unhauling is The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. Now, I read this a part of my Grady Hendrix I didn't read this, actually. I was going to read this a part of my Grady Hendrix vlog, but I had read so many Grady Hendrix books that were flops for me, and I read the Goodreads reviews on this, and they were not great. So I was like, I don't want to be disappointed. Again, I was already going through a reading slump because I read so many horrible books by him that I was like, I can't do it. I just can't. And so I'm unhauling it because it's not gonna happen. It's just not gonna happen. Next we have A Burn the Negative. This is a new release in like 2023. However, again, the reviews weren't that great. So it was like, I just have so many other books that I do want to read that I just don't think that this one's going to happen. Next we have Fountains of Silence by Ruta Sepetys? I don't know. And this, I actually read a few other books by her. They were like YA historical fictions. Historical fiction is not my thing. I thought that I would give it a try because I enjoyed like the other books. You know, like they weren't like 5 stars, but I think they were like 4 stars. But it's YA, and I don't really read YA anymore. So it's YA and historical fiction, so it just has too many things against them that I don't know. It's just, and it's big. So 3 things against them. Speaking of Grady Hendrix, we have 2 different books by him that I just did not like. They ended up on my worst books of the year for 2023. First we have We Sold Our Souls by Grady Hendrix. As you can see, this is still pretty much brand new. I just read it that one time, and I was like, no. And then we have The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. Also a very disappointing read because it had so much like hype behind it, and I was like, this has to be good. It wasn't. It just wasn't. The next book that I'm going to unhaul is Girl Stop Apologizing by Rachel Hollis. this book, I don't know, I never even got around to buying it. It was just like on a super sale at this like store in Ohio that I had gone to. I just, no, it's just not gonna happen. Next is The Library of the Dead. This is a book that I had got, but then, like I said, I'm very easily influenced by Goodreads reviews. So I read the Goodreads reviews and I was like, no. Like, the reason why I follow Goodreads reviews so much is because it was so disappointing to so many other people. There's just so many books out there that are good, you know what I mean? But there are some diamonds in the rough that I'm like, okay, this was fantastic. I don't know what everybody else is talking about. But I'm like, I don't know. I just don't think that this is gonna happen. You know, there are so many other good books about books out there that I don't know if I'm gonna get around to this one necessarily. Next we have The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. I read this one and I hated it, okay? I rated it like 2 stars. I didn't like the thriller aspect. I hated the characters. I didn't like the story. It had nothing going for it really, honestly, like at all. So I didn't like this one. Next book that I'm unhauling is The Book of Night by Holly Black. This is the Book of the Month edition. I was excited to read this, okay? I'm like, Holly Black is writing an adult fantasy? Yes. No. So many negative reviews on Goodreads that I was just like, probably not gonna happen. Next we have Red, White, and Royal Blue. This one, I really thought that I was gonna get to this one, and I loved Casey McQuiston's other book, One Last Stop. I loved that book, okay? It was literally one of my favorite books of 2022, but I just, after like years and years of like putting it on my TBR and then not getting to it, and then putting it on my TBR, not getting to it, I talk about like it's many years. It's a couple years. I'm like, since it hasn't happened to this point, it's probably just not gonna happen. So I am unhauling it. And yes, this one does hurt me, but I just feel like it just hasn't happened. So do I think it's gonna happen? Probably not. Next we have Legendary Ladies by Anne Shen. Now I originally got this book so I could read my daughters about these amazing goddesses, but there are a lot of like adult things to it and it looks like a kid's story, but there are like some parts that I'm like, ooh, I shouldn't read this out loud. And so that's why I'm getting rid of this one. I just don't think I'm going to read it again. Next we got Luminous by Mara Rutherford. This one I did read because my best friend decided to make this one of the book club picks for the our book club and I hated it so much. I think we all hated it. I don't think there was a single person in the book club that actually liked this. It was terrible. It was terrible. This is like a YA fantasy and it wasn't good. It just was not good. The beginning was good and then it just went to shiznit. Next we have A Dragon Springs Road by Janie Chang. And I think this is a historical fiction. So I don't know. I just don't think I'm gonna get to it. I've had it on my shelf for years. Not gonna happen. Love Hypothesis. Now when I sell this one, I'm obviously gonna take all my tabs off, okay? But I liked this book. However, I just don't think I'm gonna read it again. Like Allie Hazelwood's books just now, like after reading quite a few of Allie Hazelwood's books, all of her stories just started to blend into one and I just don't think she's like the author for me. We'll see. I'm gonna give her one more shot with her like paranormal romance that's coming out, but other than that, I don't know. It's just not gonna happen, so I'm gonna get rid of this book because I just don't think I'm ever gonna pick it up again. Next we have The Nothing Man by Catherine Ryan Howard. I read this one last year and the only parts that I enjoyed were the perspective of the serial unaliver. Other than that, this book was very like boring and very bland. The synopsis sounded so interesting. The execution, not so good. The next book is The Art of Racing in the Rain. Now this book I tried to read this, okay? I got like 100 pages in, but I can't do books where the dog dies and the dog dies like in the beginning. And like even because I was reading it with my mother-in-law, she was like, oh, like we're gonna read it together. And then we did. And then I just stopped reading it and I started reading something else. And like, it's been so long that like I would have to reread the whole thing again. And I don't want to go through the dog dying again. My soul, my heart cannot bear it. So it's just not gonna happen. It's just not gonna, I can't go through that pain again. Next we have The Other Berlin Girl by Philippa Gregory. I read quite a few of Philippa Gregory's books back in like 2011, and I've actually had this book since like 2011. And I'm like, I'm gonna read this. I'm gonna read this. Yes, yes, yes. It's like, girl, it's been 13 years. If you haven't read it in 13 years, it's just not gonna happen. So I'm finally like, all right, I've finally like accepted that it's not gonna happen. Next we got Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. I read this one last year in 2023. It didn't blow me away. It was like a YA, and maybe that's why, but I don't know. I was really hoping to read the trilogy, that way I can get to the adult version, the adult book in the series, which is like, I forgot what it's called. I already forgot what it's called, but I'm like, I didn't like it enough to continue with the series, so I'm gonna DNF the rest of the series, and because I'm not gonna have the rest of the series, I'm just gonna get rid of the first book too. Next we have Medusa by Jessie Burden. I read this one in 2022 because I love the story of Medusa, and this is so beautiful. Like, the cover is beautiful, everything in this book. Like, the illustrations are gorgeous. The story, however, is very slow. If you liked Circe, you might love this book. I didn't like Circe, so I didn't like this one either. But if you liked Circe, you might actually really enjoy that because it reminded me of it a lot. The next book is The Death of Vivek Oji. This book, I feel like it has to do with like a murder or something that happens, like somebody passes away. I actually don't really know. I don't really know, but this is another one that's just kind of been on my shelf that just hasn't happened. So I don't think it's going to. Do you know what I mean? Next we have One Italian Summer by Rebecca Serrell. So I read one other book by Rebecca Serrell called In 5 Years. I loved that book. This one, however, I heard was like it wasn't as good as that book. It had a lot of like negative reviews. So it's just not going to happen for me. I just know it's not going to happen. So that's why I'm getting rid of that one. Next we have 56 Days by Catherine Ryan Howard. Because The Nothing Man was such a bit of a disappointment for me, and that's a thriller, I don't even want to read her other thriller just because I'm like, I didn't enjoy that one. This one has even like worse reviews, so I'm like, I don't think so. Next we have The Stranger Upstairs by Lisa M. Matlin. This is another new release from 2023 that's just got terrible reviews, so I just don't think I'm going to be picking it up. Next we have How Lucky by Will Leach. And this book, honestly, the cover captivated me, but honestly, it's another one that's kind of just been sitting on my shelves for quite a few years, and so it's probably not going to happen. Next we have Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan. I watched the movie and I was obsessed. I really loved that movie, so I was like, okay, I have to read the books. Like, I have to read the books. Bought the books. Haven't read them. I just don't think it's going to happen, so we're getting rid of this one too. Payback is a Witch by Lana Harper. This is another one that I'm like, I put it on my TBR and I'm like, I'm gonna read it. I don't read it. Put it on my TBR, don't read it. I just don't think it's gonna happen at this point, so that's why I'm getting rid of this one. Next year in Havana by Chanel Clayton. So I was actually really thinking about putting this one on my 2024, but I'm like, you know what? I've had it for quite a long time. And I'm like, I don't even feel like reading it now. I didn't feel like reading it then. I don't feel like reading it now. I don't think I'm ever going to be in the mood to read this one. So if this one, again, is just probably not going to happen. The Woods Are Waiting is a book that I actually talked about last year, which is a new release that I was excited for. However, when the reviews started trickling in, the reviews were very negative and it got very low ratings. So I just don't think this is going to happen for me either, just because it was so disappointing for a vast majority of people. So for me personally, I'm like, it's probably not going to happen for me either. Anyways, you guys, that is it. That is a lot of books that I am unhauling. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. Once again, if you are interested in any of these books, I will post down the links to my Pango down below. So if you guys wanted to buy any of them, you can go on there and buy them. Anyways, you guys, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye! Hi, you guys. Hi. We're in a new room here. Oh my god. Fuck.